I want to talk about a word we often shy away from. It's a word that can make our hearts race, our palms sweat, and our minds scream, no way, not me. The word is vulnerability. For many of us, vulnerability is synonymous with weakness. It's the feeling we get when we step out of our comfort zone, when we put our true selves out there without any guarantee of how we'll be received. It's the fear of being judged, rejected, or even ridiculed. And so we build walls, we put on masks, we show only the parts of ourselves we think are acceptable, the parts we think people want to, is one of those words that tends to make people uncomfortable. It often conjures up images of weakness, of being exposed, and of letting down our guard in a world that constantly urges us to keep it up. We live in a culture that celebrates strength, stoicism, and self reliance. And as a result, we've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is something to be avoided or hidden at all costs. It's often seen as a sign of frailty, an admission that we are flawed or imperfect. But what if we have it all wrong? What if vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness, but rather the greatest measure of courage we can display? When we think about what it means to be brave, we usually imagine acts of heroism, pushing through fear, or taking bold risks without a second thought. But courage, in its truest form, isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear, the discomfort, the uncertainty, and choosing to show up anyway. And that's exactly what vulnerability is, showing up when there are no guarantees, stepping into moments where we might get hurt, rejected, or judged, and still being willing to be seen. It's laying down our armor, exposing our true selves and saying, this is me. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm struggling with. It's choosing to engage with life fully, even when it feels risky. Think about the moments in your own life when you felt the most vulnerable. Maybe it was the first time you told someone you loved them, not knowing if they would say it back. Perhaps it was when you applied for a job you desperately wanted, even though you were terrified of being rejected. Or it could have been when you shared a piece of your story that you had kept hidden for years. In those moments, your heart was likely pounding, your mind filled with what ifs, and every part of you wanted to retreat and play it safe. But you pushed through that discomfort. You chose to be vulnerable because deep down you knew that staying guarded would cost you more than opening up. Vulnerability is the birthplace of courage because it requires us to face the unknown. It's standing at the edge of what is comfortable and familiar and choosing to take a step forward into what is uncertain and unpredictable. That's where courage lives, not in the absence of fear, but in the presence of it. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we acknowledge that we might fail, that we might be rejected, and that we might not be able to control the outcome. It's a raw, honest admission that life is uncertain, and yet we show up anyway because we believe that something meaningful lies on the other side of that risk. This is particularly evident in our relationships. It takes an incredible amount of courage to let someone see us as we truly are. We fear that if we reveal our flaws, our insecurities, or our past mistakes, we'll be judged or rejected. So we often put up walls and present a curated version of ourselves, hoping that it will be enough to gain acceptance and love. But deep, authentic connection, the kind that makes life rich and meaningful, only happens when we allow ourselves to be seen in our entirety, not just the parts we think are lovable. It's in the moments when we admit that we don't have it all together, that we're scared, or that we need help, that we invite true connection and intimacy. When we choose vulnerability, we give others permission to be vulnerable too, creating a space where empathy and understanding can flourish. In the professional world, vulnerability plays a crucial role in effective leadership. It's easy to assume that a good leader is someone who never shows doubt, who has all the answers, and who never makes mistakes. But in reality, leaders who embrace vulnerability are the ones who inspire trust and loyalty. They acknowledge their own limitations, admit when they're wrong, and aren't afraid to ask for input or help from their teams. This kind of openness creates a culture where people feel safe to express their ideas, take risks, and be creative. It's a powerful reminder that courage isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to learn, grow, and adapt in the face of uncertainty. Vulnerable leaders show that it's okay to be human, to make mistakes, and to ask for help, which in turn encourages their teams to do the same. Moreover, vulnerability is essential for personal growth and self-acceptance. When we deny our vulnerability, we deny an integral part of our humanity. We all have moments of doubt, fear, and insecurity, and pretending otherwise only deepens our sense of isolation and shame. It's only when we acknowledge our vulnerability and embrace it that we can begin to heal, grow, and become more resilient. It takes immense courage to face our own fears, to confront the parts of ourselves that we're not proud of, and to say, this is who I am and I am enough. This kind of self acceptance is liberating because it frees us from the constant pressure to prove ourselves, to be perfect, or to meet unrealistic standards. It allows us to step into our true selves with confidence, knowing that we are worthy just as we are. Ultimately, choosing to be vulnerable is choosing to live wholeheartedly. It's choosing to be brave in the face of uncertainty, to show up even when it feels risky, and to embrace the full spectrum of our human experience. Vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate act of courage. It's the willingness to be seen, to be imperfect, and to be enough. When we think about vulnerability, it often stirs up feelings of discomfort. It's a sensation that many of us instinctively want to avoid. Vulnerability means being exposed, facing uncertainty, and opening ourselves up to the possibility of rejection or failure. Because of this, our natural reaction is often to protect ourselves, to shield our emotions, and to numb our feelings. We might tell ourselves that if we don't care too much, if we don't get too invested, or if we don't put ourselves out there, then we won't get hurt. But numbing vulnerability comes with its own set of consequences that can deeply affect our ability to connect, grow, and find fulfillment in life. One of the most significant consequences of numbing vulnerability is that we also end up numbing other emotions, especially the positive ones. Emotions are not selective. We cannot simply choose to turn off fear, shame, or sadness without also dulling joy, gratitude, and love. When we build walls around our hearts to protect ourselves from pain, we also block out the very experiences that bring us happiness and meaning. It's like trying to avoid feeling the cold by putting on thick gloves while we may protect our hands from the chill. We also lose the ability to feel the warmth of a loved one's touch. In our attempt to shield ourselves from the discomfort of vulnerability, we end up sacrificing the richness of a fully lived life. Numbing vulnerability can also create a cycle of disconnection. When we refuse to let our guard down, we prevent others from seeing who we truly are. We put on masks, show only the parts of ourselves that we think are acceptable, and hide our imperfections. This creates a barrier to genuine connection. The irony is that while we numb vulnerability to protect ourselves from rejection, this very act often leads to the isolation and loneliness we are trying to avoid. Authentic relationships are built on trust, openness, and the willingness to be seen, flaws and all. By numbing our vulnerability, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to form deep, meaningful connections with others. We may find ourselves surrounded by people yet feeling alone because the connections are superficial. They are built on the parts of ourselves that we have curated for others rather than our authentic selves. Furthermore, when we numb vulnerability, we also numb our ability to experience empathy. Empathy requires us to connect with our own feelings, to recognize our own struggles and fears, and to relate to the experiences of others. It's the process of saying, I know what it feels like to be there because I've been there too. However, if we shut down our vulnerability, we become less attuned to our own emotions and as a result, less capable of empathizing with others. This lack of empathy can impact our relationships, making it harder for us to connect deeply with the people around us. We might become more judgmental or less understanding because we have distanced ourselves from the very emotions that connect us on a human level. Numbing vulnerability also hinders personal growth and creativity. When we avoid discomfort, we avoid opportunities for growth. Taking risks, trying new things, and putting ourselves out there are all acts of vulnerability. They involve stepping into the unknown, facing the possibility of failure, and pushing beyond our comfort zones. But if we constantly seek to avoid these feelings, we limit our potential. We stay in our safe, familiar routines, even if they no longer serve us or fulfill us. This desire for comfort and predictability can stifle our creativity because creativity itself is an inherently vulnerable act. It's about bringing something new into the world, sharing a piece of ourselves, and not knowing how it will be received. If we numb our vulnerability, we may never write that book, paint that picture, start that business, or have that difficult but necessary conversation. We might avoid failure, but we also avoid the possibility of success, fulfillment, and growth. Another consequence of numbing vulnerability is the toll it takes on our mental health. Suppressing our emotions doesn't make them go away, it simply buries them deeper. Over time, This can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, and a sense of emptiness. We may find ourselves going through the motions of life without truly experiencing it, feeling disconnected not only from others, but also from ourselves. We might turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like overeating, drinking, or overworking to fill the void or to distract ourselves from the discomfort we're unwilling to face. These behaviors may provide temporary relief, but they don't address the underlying issue. Instead, they create a cycle of numbing that can be hard to break, leaving us feeling even more isolated and unfulfilled. Numbing vulnerability can also affect our sense of purpose and fulfillment. When we avoid vulnerability, we are often driven by fear rather than by our values or desires. We make decisions based on what feels safe rather than what feels meaningful. We might choose a career path that is stable but not inspiring, stay in a relationship that is comfortable but not fulfilling, or avoid pursuing our passions because the risk of failure feels too great. Over time, this disconnect between our actions and our true desires can lead to a sense of dissatisfaction and regret. We may find ourselves wondering why, despite having achieved certain goals or acquired certain comforts, we still feel unfulfilled. The answer often lies in our avoidance of vulnerability. By numbing our emotions, we cut ourselves off from the parts of life that bring the most joy, meaning, and connection. In essence, while numbing vulnerability may seem like a way to protect ourselves from pain, it actually does more harm than good. It limits our ability to feel deeply, connect authentically, grow personally, and live a life aligned with our true values and desires. In trying to avoid the discomfort of vulnerability, we also avoid the very experiences that make life worth living. Authentic connection is a fundamental human need. It's the deep, meaningful bond we form with others when we allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are, without masks, without pretense. In today's world, where social media and surface level interactions often dominate, the longing for genuine connection has become more pronounced. Many of us have hundreds of online friends or followers, yet we still find ourselves feeling lonely, isolated, and disconnected. This paradox highlights a crucial truth. What we crave isn't more interactions, but deeper, more authentic ones. The power of authentic connection lies in its ability to fulfill this innate human desire, creating spaces where we feel truly understood, accepted, and loved. To understand the power of authentic connection, we first need to recognize what it means to be authentic. Authenticity is about showing up as our true selves, embracing our strengths and weaknesses, and being open about our experiences, emotions, and thoughts. It's about letting go of the desire to be perceived in a certain way and instead choosing to be real, even if that means being vulnerable. In many ways, authenticity is an act of courage. It requires us to take off our masks and let others see the parts of us that we usually keep hidden, our fears, our doubts, our flaws. And yet, this is where the magic of connection happens. When we allow ourselves to be authentic, we invite others to do the same, creating a space where genuine bonds can form. Authentic connection goes beyond mere surface level conversations. It's not just about exchanging pleasantries or sharing facts about our lives. It's about truly being present with someone, listening with empathy, and engaging in a way that goes deeper than small talk. It's about looking someone in the eyes and saying, I see you, I hear you, I'm with you. When we experience this kind of connection, it's transformative. We feel a sense of belonging that is rare and powerful, a feeling of being seen and understood at a fundamental level. This is because authentic connection taps into our deepest human needs, the need to be known, the need to be loved, and the need to belong. In our pursuit of connection, many of us have learned to adapt and present a version of ourselves that we believe is more acceptable or likable. We put on a brave face when we're hurting, we downplay our successes to avoid standing out, or we conform to the expectations of those around us. This tendency to hide our true selves can be traced back to a fear of rejection or judgment. We worry that if people see us as we truly are, they might not like what they find. However, this kind of self-editing comes at a cost. By hiding parts of ourselves, we create a barrier to true connection. We may end up surrounded by people who know us only on a superficial level, never fully experiencing the depth of relationship we desire. When we engage in authentic connection, we take the risk of being seen in our entirety. This includes our strengths and successes, as well as our struggles and insecurities. It means being honest when we're having a tough day, admitting when we don't have all the answers, and sharing our dreams and fears without holding back. This level of openness creates a powerful bond because it signals to the other person that we trust them enough to share our true selves. It's a vulnerable act, but it's also an invitation for deeper connection. By being authentic, we give others permission to do the same, setting the stage for a relationship built on trust, empathy, and mutual understanding. One of the most powerful aspects of authentic connection is its ability to foster empathy. When we share our true selves with others, we allow them to see beyond the surface and understand our experiences, emotions, and perspectives. This creates a space for empathy to flourish. Empathy is the ability to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to feel what they are feeling, and to offer support and compassion. It's a key component of authentic connection because it bridges the gap between individuals, helping us understand and relate to each other on a deeper level. When we feel empathy from someone, we experience a profound sense of being understood and validated, which strengthens the bond we share. Authentic connection also has the power to transform the way we see ourselves. When we are truly seen and accepted by others, it challenges the negative beliefs we might hold about our worth or our value. We begin to realize that we don't have to hide parts of ourselves to be loved. This realization can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to embrace our authenticity more fully, knowing that our true selves are enough. Over time, this can lead to greater self-acceptance and self-love, which in turn makes it easier to form deeper connections with others. It's a positive feedback loop. The more we connect authentically with others, the more we learn to accept ourselves, and the more we accept ourselves, the more we are willing to connect authentically. In the context of romantic relationships, authentic connection is what distinguishes a deep, lasting partnership from a fleeting or superficial one. It's the difference between simply coexisting and truly sharing a life together. When both partners are willing to be vulnerable and authentic with each other, it creates a strong foundation of trust and intimacy. They can navigate challenges together, knowing that their bond is based on genuine understanding and acceptance. Similarly, in friendships and family relationships, authentic connection is what allows us to feel close and supported, even in difficult times. It's the glue that holds relationships together, giving us the strength to face life's ups and downs with the knowledge that we are not alone. In professional settings, authentic connection can transform the dynamics of teams and organizations. When leaders and employees engage with authenticity, it fosters an environment of trust and openness. People feel safe to share their ideas, voice their concerns, and take creative risks. This kind of culture not only improves communication and collaboration, but also enhances overall morale and productivity. Employees who feel genuinely connected to their colleagues and leaders are more likely to be engaged, motivated, and committed to their work. Authentic connection, therefore, is not just a personal need, but a powerful force that can drive collective success and fulfillment. Authentic connection is about showing up fully, embracing vulnerability, and being present with others in a meaningful way. It's a powerful force that allows us to build deep, lasting relationships, enrich our lives, and foster a sense of belonging that is essential to our well-being. When we choose to connect authentically, we unlock the true potential of our relationships, opening the door to a richer, more fulfilling human experience. Letting go of perfection is one of the most liberating yet challenging shifts we can make in our lives. Perfectionism is often seen as a positive trait, something to strive for, a mark of high standards and excellence. We wear it like a badge of honor, believing that if we can just do everything flawlessly, we will earn approval, avoid criticism, and be seen as competent, successful, and worthy. However, beneath the surface, perfectionism is not about striving for excellence. Instead, it is a shield we use to protect ourselves from the fear of failure, judgment, and inadequacy. It is rooted in the belief that if we can make our lives look perfect from the outside, we can hide our vulnerabilities and insecurities on the inside. But in reality, perfectionism is not a path to success or fulfillment. It's a barrier to authenticity and a source of deep, ongoing dissatisfaction. The pursuit of perfection often comes from a fear of being seen as flawed or imperfect. We internalize societal messages that tell us we need to be the best, look the best, and achieve the highest standards in every aspect of our lives, whether in our careers, relationships, or personal appearance. We set impossibly high expectations for ourselves, believing that anything less than perfection is a failure. Yet the irony is that perfection is an unattainable ideal. It's a moving target that is impossible to hit because the standards we set are constantly shifting and evolving based on external influences. As a result, we end up chasing an illusion, feeling perpetually dissatisfied because nothing we do ever feels good enough. This constant striving can lead to burnout, stress, and a persistent sense of inadequacy. Letting go of perfection means embracing our imperfections and recognizing that they are part of what makes us human. It involves accepting that we are flawed, that we will make mistakes, and that our worth is not tied to our achievements or how well we meet certain standards. This shift in mindset requires vulnerability because it means exposing our true selves to the world without the protective shield of perfectionism. It's about saying, I am enough as I am, even when we fall short of our own expectations or the expectations of others. It's acknowledging that our value doesn't come from being perfect, but from being authentic, from showing up as our true selves with all of our strengths and weaknesses. One of the biggest challenges of letting go of perfection is overcoming the fear of judgment and criticism. We worry that if we show our true selves, people might see our flaws and think less of us. We fear being judged as not good enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, or not successful enough. But the truth is, when we try to present a perfect image to the world, we are not only hiding our flaws, we are also hiding our true selves. We create a facade that might be admired from a distance, but doesn't allow for real deep connections. Authentic relationships are built on vulnerability and trust, which can only be established when we let go of the need to appear perfect and allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are. Another significant consequence of perfectionism is that it stifles creativity and innovation. Creativity requires taking risks, experimenting, and embracing the possibility of failure. It's about trying new things, exploring different ideas, and being willing to make mistakes along the way. But when we are caught in the trap of perfectionism, we become paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong. We become so focused on avoiding mistakes and achieving flawless outcomes that we end up avoiding opportunities for growth and discovery. This fear of failure can lead to procrastination, as we put off tasks or projects out of fear that they won't turn out perfectly. We may also play it safe, sticking to what we know and what we are confident we can do well, rather than exploring new possibilities or pushing the boundaries of our capabilities. Letting go of perfection also means embracing the process rather than fixating on the end result. Perfectionism keeps us focused on the outcome, on the idea that only the final product matters. We judge ourselves based on whether we achieve a flawless result, and we miss out on the joy and learning that come from the process itself. When we let go of the need for everything to be perfect, we allow ourselves to be fully present in the moment. We become more open to experimentation, more willing to take creative risks, and more accepting of the inevitable ups and downs that are part of any journey. We begin to see mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth and learning. This shift in perspective can transform our approach to both work and life, making us more resilient and adaptable in the face of challenges. Letting go of perfection also involves cultivating self-compassion. Perfectionists are often their own harshest critics. They are quick to judge themselves harshly for any perceived shortcoming or failure, which can lead to feelings of shame and self-doubt. Self-compassion, on the other hand, involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. Creating space for empathy and gratitude is essential for cultivating meaningful relationships and a more fulfilling life. In our fast-paced, goal-oriented society, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily tasks, distractions, and the pursuit of personal success. We often overlook the importance of slowing down and making room for deeper emotional connections with others and for appreciating the simple yet profound aspects of our lives. When we intentionally create space for empathy and gratitude, we allow ourselves to connect more deeply with the people around us, foster a sense of compassion, and nurture a mindset of appreciation that can transform our outlook on life. Empathy at its core is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It's not just about offering sympathy or feeling sorry for someone. It's about genuinely putting ourselves in their shoes and experiencing their emotions as if they were our own. Empathy is a powerful tool for building strong, authentic connections because it allows us to bridge the gap between our own experiences and those of others. It helps us see beyond our individual perspectives and recognize the shared humanity that binds us all. However, cultivating empathy requires intention and effort. It involves setting aside our judgments, preconceived notions, and distractions to truly listen to and be present with another person. One of the barriers to empathy is the constant noise and busyness of our lives. We live in a world filled with endless notifications, tasks, and to-do lists that often leave us feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. In such an environment, it can be difficult to pause and tune into the emotions and needs of others. When we are preoccupied with our own worries, goals, and stressors, we may find it challenging to make space for someone else's experiences. Creating space for empathy means consciously slowing down, being present, and actively listening. It means setting aside our own concerns momentarily to fully engage with another person, to ask open ended questions, and to truly hear their responses. By doing so, we open the door to deeper understanding and compassion. Empathy is also closely linked to vulnerability. To truly connect with someone else's emotions, we need to be willing to confront our own. This can be uncomfortable because it requires us to face our own pain, insecurities, and fears. However, it is through this vulnerability that we can connect on a deeper level. When we share our own experiences and emotions openly, we create a space where others feel safe to do the same. It's a mutual exchange of understanding that can only occur when both parties are willing to let down their guard. This shared vulnerability is what makes empathy so powerful. It allows us to build bonds that are rooted in trust and authenticity, which are the foundation of meaningful relationships. On the other hand, gratitude is about recognizing and appreciating the good things in our lives, no matter how small they may seem. It's an intentional practice of focusing on what we have rather than what we lack. In a culture that often emphasizes striving for more success, more possessions, more achievements, it's easy to fall into a mindset of scarcity and dissatisfaction. We can become so focused on what we don't have that we overlook the abundance already present in our lives. Practicing gratitude helps shift our focus from what's missing to what's already there, and it fosters a sense of contentment and fulfillment. Gratitude is a mindset that requires conscious effort to cultivate. It's not about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect, rather. It's about acknowledging the good even in the midst of difficulties. This practice can be as simple as taking a moment each day to reflect on three things we are thankful for, or expressing appreciation to someone who has made a positive impact in our lives. By regularly practicing gratitude, we begin to notice and savor the small moments of joy, kindness, and beauty that might otherwise go unnoticed. This shift in focus can have a profound impact on our well-being, leading to greater happiness, reduced stress, and a more positive outlook on life. Empathy and gratitude are closely intertwined because both require us to look beyond ourselves and consider the broader picture of our experiences and the experiences of others. When we practice empathy, we become more attuned to the struggles and emotions of those around us. We start to see the world from different perspectives, which can lead to a deeper appreciation of our own circumstances. For example, listening empathetically to a friend who is going through a tough time can remind us of the things we might take for granted, such as our health, our support system, or the simple comforts of everyday life. In this way, empathy can naturally give rise to gratitude by helping us recognize the interconnectedness of our lives and the many ways in which we are supported and cared for by others. Creating space for empathy and gratitude also has a ripple effect on our communities. When we take the time to listen, understand, and appreciate those around us, we foster an environment of kindness, respect, and mutual support. Acts of empathy and expressions of gratitude can inspire others to do the same, creating a culture where people feel valued, heard, and connected. In workplaces, for instance, a culture of empathy can lead to better collaboration, improved morale, and stronger relationships among team members. Similarly, expressing gratitude in our personal relationships can strengthen bonds, enhance trust, and increase overall satisfaction and happiness. Furthermore, practicing empathy and gratitude can enhance our resilience in the face of adversity. When we cultivate empathy, we develop a greater capacity to navigate difficult emotions, both our own and those of others. It helps us approach challenges with a compassionate and open heart, allowing us to find solutions that take into account the needs and feelings of everyone involved. At the same time, gratitude helps us maintain a balanced perspective during tough times. It serves as a reminder that even in the midst of hardship, there are still things to be thankful for, no matter how small they may seem. This combination of empathy and gratitude creates a powerful foundation for navigating life's ups and downs with grace, compassion, and a sense of inner peace. In essence, creating space for empathy and gratitude is about making a deliberate choice to slow down, to be present, and to open our hearts to the experiences of others and to the gifts in our own lives. It's a practice that can transform our relationships, enhance our well-being, and help us lead lives that are more connected, compassionate, and fulfilled. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as a sign of weakness, a display of fragility, or an invitation for others to take advantage of us. Many people associate vulnerability with exposing their insecurities, failures, or emotions and see it as something to be avoided. We have been conditioned to believe that showing vulnerability makes us susceptible to judgment, rejection, or hurt. So we put up walls to protect ourselves. We wear masks, hide our true feelings, and avoid situations that might make us feel exposed. However, this perspective overlooks a fundamental truth. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a powerful and essential part of the human experience. It is, in fact, the path to growth and fulfillment. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to deeper connections, self discovery, and meaningful personal development. At its core, vulnerability is about being open and honest with ourselves and others. It means allowing people to see us as we truly are, including our imperfections, fears, and uncertainties. It involves stepping outside of our comfort zones, taking risks, and embracing the unknown. This openness can be daunting because it requires us to let go of control and confront the possibility of failure or rejection. Yet, it is in these moments of vulnerability that we experience the greatest opportunities for growth. When we are willing to show up authentically without hiding behind a facade of perfection or invincibility, we create space for real change to occur. We stop holding ourselves back, and instead, we give ourselves permission to explore, to learn, and to grow. One of the key reasons why vulnerability is so integral to personal growth is that it allows us to confront and overcome our fears. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles to growth that keeps us stuck in a cycle of self protection and prevents us from taking the risks necessary to evolve. We fear failure, rejection, and judgment, and so we play it safe, avoiding situations where we might be exposed or criticized. However, when we embrace vulnerability, we challenge these fears head on. We acknowledge that while failure and rejection are possible outcomes, they are also opportunities for learning and development. We start to see setbacks not as reflections of our inadequacy, but as valuable experiences that help us grow stronger, more resilient, and more capable. Vulnerability is also crucial for building deeper, more meaningful relationships. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others, we invite them to do the same. This mutual exchange of openness and honesty creates a foundation of trust and empathy, which are essential components of any strong, lasting relationship. It is through vulnerability that we connect with others on a deeper level beyond superficial pleasantries or small talk. We share our joys, our struggles, our dreams, and our fears. And in doing so, we create a bond that is rooted in genuine understanding and compassion. This kind of connection is fulfilling because it affirms our shared humanity. It reminds us that we are not alone in our experiences and that our imperfections do not make us unworthy of love or acceptance. In the context of personal fulfillment, vulnerability plays a transformative role. Many people spend their lives trying to live up to external expectations, striving for perfection, or pursuing goals that do not align with their true selves. They hide behind a carefully curated image of success, constantly seeking approval and validation from others. However, this approach often leads to feelings of emptiness and dissatisfaction because it is not authentic. When we embrace vulnerability, we begin to strip away these layers of pretense and get in touch with our genuine desires, values, and passions. We start to ask ourselves what truly matters to us and what we want from life, independent of societal pressures or expectations. This process of self-discovery is a powerful driver of fulfillment because it allows us to live in alignment with our authentic selves. Moreover, vulnerability is a catalyst for creativity and innovation. Creativity requires us to take risks, to put our ideas out into the world, and to be open to criticism or failure. It is an inherently vulnerable process because it involves exposing a part of ourselves, sharing our unique perspective, and potentially facing rejection. Yet, it is this very vulnerability that fuels the creative process. When we are willing to be vulnerable, we give ourselves the freedom to experiment, to explore new ideas, and to push the boundaries of what is possible. We move beyond fear and self-doubt, and instead we tap into our innate potential for creativity. This willingness to be open, to try, and to fail is what ultimately leads to innovation and progress. Vulnerability also allows us to build resilience. Resilience is not about being unaffected by challenges or setbacks. Rather, it is about how we respond to them. When we embrace vulnerability, we acknowledge our struggles and emotions instead of suppressing them. This honest confrontation with our experiences enables us to process and move through difficult situations more effectively. We learn to adapt, to grow from our mistakes, and to bounce back stronger than before. By accepting that it is okay to feel hurt, disappointed, or uncertain, we cultivate the inner strength to face life's challenges with courage and grace.